everyone, and welcome to What the Quad, our favorite show because I get to talk directly with the pilots, and pilots are great. Side note, the music in that trailer, it is now on my personal playlist, and I know at some point I'm gonna get tired of it, but right now I am jamming all the time. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Today we have some really awesome, amazing guests that I am so pleased agreed to chat with me. So from the USA is Rue, who is part of Corp Force One. Hi, Rue. Then we have from the Netherlands, Andreas FPV, who is in Raiden Racing. And also from the USA, we have JBox from China Dragons. So welcome, everyone.
That video got me pumped up, man. Let's go.
Right?
It was good.
I'm ready to race, and I don't know how to race.
Just try it.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
I'm curious what JBox and Andreas thinks. Lax is my favorite map. I like that map a lot. It's really fun.
It's really good.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't memorized all the tracks yet, so I don't know which one you're really referring to yet. But
the snow.
So
Lax is a snowy mountains.
Oh yes. That is a really good track. I like that one. Yeah.
Like half pipe. There's so much goodness.
It was actually voted the that wasn't that, the Community Choice Awards. Everyone voted for their favorite environment, and Lax either won or tied with Great Wall of China, but the two were very neck and neck. But essentially people love Lax, and I mean, Matt could tell you all the anecdotes of when we were there in real life, and he probably will next weekend, because we are back to live racing for race number 2 this season at Lax with Matt and Martin, and we are very much looking forward to that. But we digress. What we're going to talk about today especially is getting to know you guys, talking about the first race of the season, how you thought of it, and we have a myriad of different experiences here, which is great because we have Bruce in the Women's Cup, Andreas, who's been in DCL for a few years, and JBox, who's a draft recruit, so brand new. And I just want to have everyone's general impression on. Maybe we'll start with JBox and Andreas, and then Rue, you can tell us also about the Women's Cup format and what you thought of it. But JBox, you were selected in the draft selection, so how did that go? And what have been your impressions of DCL and racing so far?
It's been really fun. I was really nervous my first race, actual race, because I've done other races, but I don't know, having I think it was 15,000 people watch you live. That was a different experience I wasn't really ready for. But after that first race, I started getting into the flow and I started to really warm up. But yeah, that first race, I was really nervous.
Well, you did great for a first time. It was really impressive, and I mean, China Dragons put their trust in you and clearly paid off because you ended up in the small final. So, props to you and your team. Did really, really solid performance on the day, and I look forward to seeing more of you this season. Andreas, you have shifted teams more times than I've moved in. Well, tell us about, your start at DCL, the moving teams, how that's been.
Yeah, so in short, I got in DCL through the draft selection, same as JBox, but I was selected by Team Apex, and I raced a wonderful year with them. But when the new season started a year ago, Apex decided to not fly DCL that year, so I was left teamless and flew a year for the Koreans with Supersonic. Noticed that I was kind of getting used to how Apex run their team, and I was more looking like a sort of team. How do you say this? It's a very different run team, and I wanted to kind of try and find that Apex vibe again. So yeah, this year I contacted Raiden, and they were very happy to try and work with me.
Well, that's really good that you managed to get in a team. I mean, being recruited by the world champions is not an easy one, and you guys also won the first race of Vedrits, so you're off to a great start.
Yes, we
And
were really lucky.
I mean, there's luck and there's talent. There's obviously always a bit of both. You know, if someone crashes in the other team, it works to your advantage. But I think credit to all of the pilots who raced. Honestly, everyone, the talent is unreal, and you can all be really, really proud of yourselves and how you raced. And you know, it's the first race of the season. Things are bound to be a bit messy. Some of the team members still getting to know each other, but as the season progresses, yeah, everyone's going to click, and we're going to continue seeing some really exciting racing. So, Rue, you were DCL in 2021 as well. You're back this year with Quad Force One. What are your thoughts and feelings on the Women's Cup as a general concept and the format change this year?
So in general, I can't even thank DCL enough for putting together a women's cup. When it was first announced, I actually was not sure that there'd be enough women to populate all of the teams. And since then, I've really learned that there are far more women in drone racing than I knew in the world. So each team generally has multiple women on the team. So I think it's really helped me to not feel quote unquote alone so much as a lady drone racer. And the new format, which if people don't know, if you come in last, you're out of that round. So I love this and I hate it. So that first round of the day, the very first one, the adrenaline is so high. Your hands are shaking. I don't know if people are aware too, you get a very limited time to practice on the maps, and you're not flying while you're waiting. You're kind of just sitting there and you're like, okay, let's go, let's go. So it can be so easy to make a mistake in any of those runs and be out. So I think it's really going to make this season incredibly interesting. You know, who can be super consistent under all that pressure, and who's going to make a mistake and be out that maybe you thought might be a candidate to podium.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for those who maybe we'll go back to the basics. This is the Drone Champions League, the the International League for Drone FPV Racing, and these three lovely people are great pilots. We started doing in real life racing years ago, and with the COVID pandemic, etc., we moved to doing it virtually. That was a decision that had to be made based on things beyond our control, unfortunately. So this year will be mostly virtual season, and we're hoping at some point, sometime, we can go back to in real life racing, but pandemic. The Women's Cup came as a result of what we realized was just a, how do you call it, like a percentage that wasn't strong enough. It's a sport that doesn't discriminate at all in any sense, and yet you see such a small amount of women compared to men. Or I use the term women very broadly. I know that gender is a massive spectrum, but yeah, it was. So it's been really nice to kind of spotlight women as yourself, Rue, who were enormously talented, and hopefully inspire other women, girls, to take up the sport and see themselves represented on screen in this international super prestigious tournament.
And I
But
believe
not that we
DCL is
discriminate.
the first platform to ever do that, which I really appreciate the chance to put women in the spotlight and duke it out, so to speak, to see which one of us will be the best.
Yeah, there's some really good talent in the Women's Cup as well. It's gonna be a fun year. Some impressive new talent as well. Like Giona FV,
She's
like
killing it.
9.
She's unreal.
Yeah.
And sticking it to everyone. Yeah, exactly, 9.5. And it's really, really great seeing young talents emerge this way, because it's exactly, pilots like her that we're hoping to inspire, and to eventually, we don't want to have a women's cup forever. That's never been the goal. At some point, we hope that we'll have enough of a balance in the world in order to integrate everyone and do one big tournament where we all love each other. In the meantime, Rue, happy to hear that you're enjoying the new format. Maybe we can do a quick format explanation of the new format this year, as opposed to last year where it was heats, heat points, the relatively classic thing similar to the World Cup. Because there is... there. So you have 6 pilots, 1 from each team, who race on 2 racetracks and over 5 knockout heats. So it starts with all 6 pilots racing, 1 gets knocked out who finishes last. Then the second heat, that's 5 pilots remaining, etc., until you get to the final 5th heat, where it's 1v1, and then the winner takes all. The leaderboard is based on in which heat you were eliminated, essentially. If you get kicked out in heat 1, you finish 6th. If you get kicked out in heat 4, you finish 3rd. You get the general. So you have to be the best every single round, because you can't... if you miss one round, essentially you crash once, you're out. That's it. And
we just need to not be last. You don't have to be the best. You just can't be last.
True.
Which is just
but you can't...
super interesting.
And you came, I think, 4th in both heats, or both
I did. I was really pleased with that, because the competition is pretty fierce this year. With the addition of Diwana, she's amazing, and we're going to see some really tight racing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, between all of you, it was a real... as a spectator, it is a treat to watch when you see a close competition like that. But yeah, and so back to JBox though, for you it was the first race of the season, and I mean your first DCL race ever. So how did you try to prepare yourself for this event and being able to be on your best on the day?
Personally, what I did was like comparing myself to times by like very fast people like Propsicle, just trying to get an idea of like their absolute pace, like when they're really grinding. But not only that, like I knew like in the actual race the pace would be like slightly slower, because at the end of the day, like if you make a mistake, like that doesn't help anyone at all. You gotta focus on being clean. So I was just like, as long as I can be consistent, I should be good. And I think I even won a race. Yeah, I won one race, and I tried to get second or third most of the day, but um, it worked out pretty good, I think, considering it was my first race ever in DCL.
No, definitely, you can be proud of yourself. So how did you get into FPV and drone racing in the first place? What was the moment where you're like, wow, this is for me?
For me, I used to race RC cars, and I went to the track one day, and someone had a tiny whoop, and it was like, this was probably like 4 to 5 years ago, and it was on the original Tango, so it was like the radium goggles all in one, and yeah, I got to like fly it around, kind of flew at FPV, and that was like my first time really ever flying a drone. And then later, like I think it was like 5 or 6 months after that, I got a 5 inch, and just was just was doing freestyle for a long time, and then I found racing.
Awesome. Well, that's really, really great story. Andreas, how did you get into drone racing?
Well, I hardly remember. I think it was through YouTube, honestly. It's like seeing one of the Sharpoo videos. I think it's the very classical story how everyone got into FPV, but I will have to follow in that line.
And so how long has it been for you, roughly?
I got my first ever FPV quad. It was like a very 1 inch tiny, cheap Chinese drone. I got that in the end of 2015. So I've been doing it for a few years now.
Yeah, it has been a while. I just remember you being the young and emerging talent when I first joined DCL. So beginning 2020, you were like on all the leaderboards and all the teams were fighting to have you on their team, and
And then I got
yeah,
slow.
you've come a long way.
There's so many fast kids these days. It's unreal. Like look at JBox for example. It shouldn't know. It's almost unfair.
Rue, do you feel like, well, how long have you been, because you've been around for a while as well.
Yeah, I've been flying incredibly poorly since probably late 2017. So my partner had tried to get me into drones a few times, and I just couldn't get it. And it wasn't until I started in a simulator and eventually got my own tiny whoop that I could finally learn to fly drones. But it was really his hobby. Like I would come along and I'd just place last in like every single race, like dead last every time. And then I would say probably about 1 to 2 years ago, I started to get more serious about practicing. And now I beat my partner and I win many races. So it's been quite a journey from kind of last to, sometimes getting the local trophies. So it's been a really fun experience.
Hard work pays off.
Indeed. And simulators, time in the sim, that's 100%. I always tell people that's the way you're going to learn to fly, that's the way you're going to get smooth, it's how you're going to get fast. You can get so much more practice time in because you can do that when it's raining or after your kids go to bed. So 100% simulators. Use them.
You can download DCL a game on Xbox, PS4, and on Steam now. Go do it. There. I've plugged in the game. That's, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things, I guess, where hard work does pay off, and if you start putting your heart and soul as well into it, then you reap the rewards. I just remember when you came on the map to me, at least, because I don't know the community as well, but a few people were talking about Rue has joined Quad Force One and she's racing for them for the Women's Cup. You'd better watch out. Like, Rue is amazing. She's such a fast pilot. I think you're quite well known in the US circuit, in real life races as well. So we were
Thank you.
really
I
happy and
appreciate that.
on it. So it's been really cool to obviously be able to actually watch you, because I can't make it to the US. It's a bit far from me. So you're from,
Maybe one
whereabouts
day.
in the US are you from?
I'm in the eastern United States, so I'm about 2 hours from New York City, or maybe like an hour from Philadelphia. So we get lots of snow, which is tough in the winter, but that's when we really break out the tiny whoops and race indoors. And we're about a month away, I would say, for JBox and I going out to Indiana to compete in the Multi GP International Open. So we're pretty excited. That's probably the biggest race in the United States, I'd say.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
that's definitely true. That's kind of I've always been scared to go, but this year's my first time going, so I'm really excited.
I didn't realize you hadn't been before.
Nope,
So you're
nope,
gonna race?
never. Yep.
Wow. Well, good luck. I'm sure you'll blow your own mind and go beyond your own expectations.
Thank you.
And whereabouts in the US are you based, JBox?
Texas.
Cool. Is it nice there?
Yeah, the winter it gets cold. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like Wisconsin cold, but like when you live here for a while, you get used to how hot it is, and then it's like I don't want to go outside if it's below like 30 degrees. I don't want it, you know? But yeah,
Mm.
most of the time it's like right now, I think today is probably like 80, 90 degrees outside. But it's still good weather to fly. It's just a little windy. That's about all.
Does cold weather, genuine question, impact drones?
Yes, very
Like,
much.
Yes. The
can it shut
batteries
down a
don't like
motor?
it.
That.
Not the motors, but just the batteries, and everything breaks faster because it's colder. So it's like more expensive and it flies less good because your batteries don't like it as much.
Yeah. And conversely, the extreme heat is not super good for everything either. So then you probably need to let it cool down in between heats.
Yeah.
So whereas I can't like fly in the winter, really, I think JBox maybe has some concerns in the summer because his summers are much hotter than ours would be.
Yeah.
What would you say is the ideal temperature? I'm gonna go with you two are probably gonna say Fahrenheit, and I'll pretend I know what you mean. To
We'll Google it.
fly. Yeah. Well, maybe
Like
Andreas, so I
75
don't have to
JBox.
convert.
I was gonna say like
Well,
65, 70.
like outside of like exact temperature numbers, it's like right up to the point before your hands get sweaty. It's like warm enough, but not too warm that it gets uncomfortable to wear like the goggles and stuff, because you know you're strapping something on your face. It's gonna get sweaty if it's really hot. It's like
This is
right up to
true.
the point that's like comfortable.
But what temperature would you say that is, Andreas?
It's like 25-ish degrees, a bit lower maybe.
Yeah, I just Googled
That's
it, and I would have said around 24 degrees Celsius,
yeah,
which would be
it's the
around
same. It's the same.
75
Yeah.
for us
Yeah,
Fahrenheit. Yeah,
that's fair.
because you don't want to be like and it was so hot too. Like
Yeah,
your
when you want to
goggles
sweat.
fog up, and you're like sweating in
Yeah.
your eyeballs, and it's
It's
just
terrible.
unpleasant.
Not fun.
Question, actually, how'd you do it? I don't know if the Rune JBox wear glasses, but obviously Andreas, you do. How'd you do it with the goggles to wear, sorry, glasses with it? Do you wear contact lenses when you wear them, or like can you layer it? Is that like a thing?
There are some goggles where you can layer it. Usually, like the bigger box goggles, you can sometimes layer it, which is pretty comfortable actually. But I have the Fat Shark goggles nowadays. So there are these little lenses you can slide into it if you have certain prescriptions. You can get them custom made.
Cool.
But I have kind of long eyelashes, so I cannot blink if I use those. It's like either blinking or seeing. So I've decided to blink. So I'm just kind of blind in the corners when flying. I can only focus on the middle. So it's an option. But you can get prescription lenses for like most goggles these days.
Okay.
Oh, like Arizona, they have a big night race coming up, and I would say yes, 100%. That's why. But it's cool though. I mean, like who wouldn't want to fly
Yeah,
through LED gates?
and
Like,
I mean, yeah, and you can see because of the lights and stuff, you can see can you see everything? Okay, you can
I
see
think it's. I'm gonna curious what these
everything.
guys think. I think it's tough because you can't see the ground as well.
That's a very
Mm,
valid point.
If it's on like a soccer field with like the high up lights, it's fine because they never really point directly into your camera. It's bad when it starts
Uh,
to point exactly into your camera. Like you have these people that put like
uh.
construction lights on the floor. That's really difficult to fly with. But other than that,
So the JBox, what are your thoughts on night flying versus day flying? Do you like night? Do you prefer one, or just general thoughts, essentially?
For me at night, I like it because it's a bit colder, and I mean, like the only real main downside is like bugs come out, and it's really annoying to deal with them. But like
yeah.
That
day
is a very
flying,
valid point.
yeah. But day flying here in Texas, like, you're very prone to smoke a motor, or like you're just drenched in sweat after practicing, which is all just annoying. But um, it's kind of give and take. It's kind of what you really want to take away from your practice. Do you want to come back home sweaty, or do you want to come back home like all bit up from bugs? So it's just kind of how it is here.
But Jess, I
Yeah.
will add that getting to race in a stadium under the lights is just about the coolest thing I think we get to do. So sometimes the national championships have been in a stadium at night under the lights, and it gets your heart pumping, and you're like, yeah, let's go. It's just super exciting.
Wow.
It's a
What
lot of
state do
fun.
they usually take? Like, what you guys, American football stadiums or baseball stadiums, or like, is there a particular type of stadium that's used, or is it just whichever stadium is available?
I'd be football primarily.
Does that happen in Europe that they use like sports stadiums? Andreas, do you know?
Not too often, sometimes, but there are enough fields around, and like getting a sports place to be like, hey, yeah, you can stick gates in our expensive grass. That's just something we don't really bother with anymore. Some groups are really cool with that, and they're like, yeah, that's okay, you can do that. Or you use like cement blocks to just keep the gates in place. But in general, we just get a different field to do that.
Fair enough. It's legit. There was a comment in the chat which I agree with. JBox, are you in your closet? Because
Yeah.
it's a very
Yes, I
much a
am.
Harry Potter vibe that's happening there of streaming from
Yeah.
closet.
I really don't have any room in like the main room, and like I don't live at home. The flight school I go to, they have like apartments they rent out, and like I'm in an apartment that isn't like home, so it's just kind of what I'm doing to make it work and get by. Um, so yeah, I'm in my closet. It's all I really have right now.
It's a cool setup though. I mean, it works.
Yeah,
Like
it's pretty spacious.
Harry would be jealous.
Yeah.
You guys aren't like the Harry Potter generation, are you?
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
I've
Harry
watched the
Potter.
whole series.
I haven't watched a single Harry Potter movie fully.
To be
Oof.
fair, I
Yeah.
rewatched them
Yeah.
all a few months ago, and I was just like, this villain is really bad. Like being like apparently the like most what's it, like the strongest magical person and whatever, and he's like incapable of stopping a bunch of kids. It's just like,
Yeah, just don't look at it that way. Just
yeah, but once you've seen it for like the 100th time, you start noticing the flaws.
yeah.
But my main, the thing that I support is, someone once said, I saw a meme on like 9gag or something, where it's like they should rename all the Harry Potters to be like Hermione and the time she saved everyone, Hermione and the other time she saved everyone, because
I can't unsee.
like, it's so true though. Having rewatched them, I'm like, how did the only reason they are all not dead is because this woman anticipates everything. And yeah,
Yes.
she's a hero for that. But back to FPV and drone racing. What would you say is your favorite environment in DCL the game? Or that you've raced thus far, just in general? I mean, I know Ru and Andreas, you guys have been able to race a few different GPs by now, so you know the environments maybe a bit better. But JBox, what would you say is your favorite in-game environment that you get to? You don't need to say the name, just describe it generally if you don't know the name, and we'll figure it out.
It'd be like a quiz for us.
I'm gonna say the one with snow that we were
Exactly.
talking
Pop
about
quiz.
before. The snow one, I
Lax.
really like that environment.
Yes.
Yeah, lax. There's a lot of like room, so like there's a bunch of different like opportunities for like track designers, but
Mm.
yeah, it's a really fun environment to fly around in. I like that one.
It was apparently fun in real life, but very cold. I think this is one of the
Oh,
cool
yeah.
Ooh,
things
yeah.
that Sims give us, is that we can race on all these things without like the weather. So you can be in like whatever your ideal temperature is, because some people like it when it's warmer, some when it's cooler. So you put your room in like the temperature that you like, and then you have like your goggles on so you don't sweat too much in them. Well, you don't even have goggles on. That was very stupid of me. But you're in like a safe space, and it makes for optimal racing conditions. But I'm imagining the thrill of real life racing is probably something else. I mean,
Yeah.
so Rue, talk us through the video that at some point is going to come on of you racing in real life.
Yeah, so we just talked about the Multi-GP International Open coming up. This was the track last year. So it's one of the largest tracks we'll fly. It's incredibly epic. We usually have a lot of fun elements like dive gates and things that we probably can't do on a local level just because of the amount of setup. The gates are a little bit larger than our local club might use, so we can go faster. And we just get basically the best pilots from across the country to come out and kind of camp and fly drones sun up to sundown every day for 5 days. It's pretty
Oh,
glorious
wow.
if you love drones.
And how are you able to like look at that video? How do you know where to go on the track? Because they're not like, are they like arrows or something?
So this is actually one of the most common questions that I get. How do you learn the track? And so this particular map was released in a drone simulator first so that we could learn
Okay.
it a few days before the event. And you always have your friends around you who are telling you where to go. Or if you, so actually, when I first did this track, I was doing it wrong. So I had people tell me, hey, you're missing a gate here, or I think I was going the wrong side of a flag. So you always have people helping you out. And in this particular case, I spent literally sun up to sundown at this track for a few days because I had a goal to be the first woman to make the World Cup, and I succeeded in that goal last year with a lot of help from a lot of people and a lot of hard work. So it was a pretty special time last year.
That's really well. It's great that then the community people are helping each other out, and yeah, that's impressive that you can memorize that. Like even once you met, I'm just always y'all impress me just so much, just on a general level. I just hope you know that, even to people who don't know things, it's very impressive. um,
Mhm.
but yeah,
And once you've
we go for it.
I was going to add, once you've been flying for a while, there's really only a few patterns, like things repeat. So if you have two gates next to each other, you know you're basically doing one of two or three things. So you just memorize these patterns and you're always kind of going in a flow. So you're probably going through whatever is in front of your quad next. So it really, I promise, if there's anyone out there who's thinking about getting into drone racing, it really is not that hard to learn the tracks, especially over time. And you can see the panels are facing the way the drone has to go through it. So I can see, oh, I know I have to go in through the gate this way because that's how the
Mm.
rating is on the gates. So there's all kind of clues and hints we get about where to go.
And I mean, this is where, like you say, you start learning it on the simulator. This is where a simulator is great because it has the option of telling you, you have a little warning sign like, hey, you missed the gate, you have to go back and do it. And by it correcting your trajectory, I'm guessing the muscle memory then kind of kicks in at some point.
Yeah, so you need that muscle memory actually, because
Mm.
if you're still thinking about where to go next or you're feeling lost, you're not going to be able to race your best. So I think it's once you finally have that muscle memory and you don't have to think so hard about where you're going, that's when you start putting down the really good lap times, actually.
Andreas, there's a question from Melissa, completely unrelated, but I do find it a funny question. How do you get to your practice? Is it the practice spot? I think they were asking. Yeah, how do you get to your flying spot? Do you cycle there? Are you and
Yes.
like Melissa buddies in training, or is it just like a very,
No, not so
very
much.
random question?
No, I've known Melissa for like 4 years or something. She's been in Twitch chat forever.
Yes,
Um,
I always see her. Shout out, Melissa.
yeah, but yeah, I actually, yeah, I take my bike to my flying spot. So I have 8 flags and 8 gates, and I will strap them to my bike, and I go off, and then I return like 4 hours later. So it's kind of a
Is that
hassle not having a car and just throwing everything in and going, but it works.
I was gonna say that sounds like heavy, but is that like not heavy to like all carry on your bike?
Yeah, so like I'm not carrying it on my back, which would be like
Yeah,
undoable. But like yeah, it's if my flying spot would be any further, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't do it probably. It's just the perfect distance where it's okay to do it this way.
fair enough. Roughly how long by bike does it take to get to your flying spot?
It's like 15 to 20 minutes,
Okay,
like
yeah,
roughly.
that's
Like it's fine.
doable, I
It's
guess.
yeah. It's not ideal though.
JBox, do you? Yeah, I mean, obviously
Sorry.
taking with the bicycle, I feel like that. Is there a bus or something that you can take that like?
Well, imagine going in a bus with like 8 flags and 8 gates. Like, I don't know, that seems
To
like
be
more of a
fair,
hassle.
yeah, I mean, having lived in London, it's the type of thing that I saw really frequently. Like, not necessarily facts, but just a person with like a massive bunch of stuff. You didn't really know what it
Yeah.
was, and you just like, you know what, fair enough.
I think the bike's easier.
If it works for you, that's the important bit. I mean, clearly it's been working out because you're obviously performing well, so no one can really judge that. JBox, do you have a practice spot that you like going to, or multiple places, or how are you able to, for your in real life practicing? How are you able to do that?
The local chapter for multi GP is probably about like a 12-minute drive for me. So a lot of the time I just use that field, and it's like a full AMA field. It's all legal to fly there, so I just kind of use that field, and it has power. It's pretty close to like a restaurant, or not like fast food places. Like I can get food, so I'll be good whenever I fly out there. So yeah.
Food is very important. It is the fuel. Oh, so this is some of your, is it a race or a practice?
Yeah, so this was practice, and I wanted to get stick cam, so that's like my radio at the bottom of the video there.
Jeez, you're fast.
And yeah,
Thank you.
is this something that they set up, or did you set this all up?
So all the gates and flags are like all my own. So this was like me and I believe Leanne and Ryan, AK Drones. He's also in DCO, and
Yeah.
we wanted to get some practice before Mayhem. So that was probably about like a month ago now. But we all flew. It was a really good time.
A question. So this is what you're seeing, right? This video is
Yeah.
exactly what you're seeing when you wear the goggles. How
Mhm.
do you see? Like, it's all going so fast and spinning everywhere, and it's grainy. And I'm like, how are you not crashing into everything?
Um, I personally just really work up to that pace, so it's not like I just set the germ down first pack and I just go do that. I really it probably took me a good like 15, 20 packs before I really felt comfortable enough to just like go for like DVR runs and stick cam runs. But I mean, when you work up to the pace, it doesn't feel as fast, and then you watch it back like the next day, and you're like, holy crap, like I was really hauling there, But just warming up and taking your time to get to that pace helps a lot.
For the newbies, what's the difference between stick cam and DVR? What do those things
DVR is
actually
like,
mean?
yeah, DVR is like what I see. So like it's like the drone, the top part, that main screen of the drone, and then the stick cam
Okay.
is like on your radio. Like it's just recording what I do with my sticks, and you can see all my movements, like how much I
Okay.
pre-turn, or when I start to do a turn, how I do my corkscrews. Um, like when I
Do you
first
then?
got into the hobby, there wasn't, huh?
Yeah, no,
What was
sorry,
that?
continue.
Like when I got into the hobby, there wasn't many like stick cam videos. So like now that I've gotten like pretty fast, I love posting them. So that's why I do them.
And do you kind of rewatch them and try to understand from analyzing the step cam where you could improve possibly, what you're doing good, and what are the things that you need to look out for or work on?
Yeah, definitely. For me, that's like a really good like tool or like way that you can review your own movements, because like you can watch back the DVR and be like, man, like I wish I would have pre-turned more, but like with stick cam, you really can know how far out you were turning and how much
Mhm.
throttle you used and all those things.
Do you always use the same transmitter or do you kind of switch?
So that was before my new Radio Master got in, but I have a Radio Master Mach 2 now that even has my name on it, and here,
That
it
is
says my
very
name up
cool.
there. Yeah, it's a very nice radio. I really like it.
What radio do you have, Andreas?
I have the same one, but in pink and white. It doesn't show up too pink on camera, but it's pink and white.
Is that like that gold pink type thing that like is like super? Because no offense, JBox, like yours is great and everything, but pink and white is like it's my jam.
Oof.
My phone, my computer, all of it, just like based on that pink gold.
Hell
They
yeah.
all synchronize with each other. Rue, what about you? What tuxedo do you use?
All right, everybody in the chat is going to make fun of me because I'm still using a more inexpensive radio. It's called QX7S. It's by Free Sky. And I have nothing against Radio Master. They look amazing, but I'm really sentimental. And it's the radio that my partner gave me when I got into FPV. So I just feel very attached to it. And
Oh,
I don't know. I'm sure one day I'll change it, but I still like it, and it's working for me. So
and producer Freshly has also let us know that they use an X Lite of
Oh yeah.
what brand is?
First guy.
that's
I
also
mean,
Free Sky. Yeah.
Free
Yep.
Sky. Do you know for the longest time I used to read it as Frisky? Because like it's FR and then Sky, right? And so
It
I
makes
was just like,
sense.
it's just how my brain would remember it. Like I knew how it was written, but I just made that, and yeah, anyway,
I see a new
thanks to
slogan:
Lyric.
"Free Sky makes you frisky."
I like it.
I feel like a
But I mean,
lot
it's
of
a less
people
expensive
would get
radio.
into
Like, yeah, yeah.
No, but the
less
QX7, I
expensive does not
also stayed with
necessarily mean
forever.
better. Not better, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andreas?
No, but the QX7, like the one that Roof flies, I've only been switching like 5 or 6 months ago, and that's only because it broke. So like it got to the point where I had to replace the gimbals every 2 or 3 weeks, but it's still here and it's beautiful. It works.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. So these things just kept breaking on me. They kept getting loose, and they wouldn't read which angle they were in properly. So this one, much better. It's new. It still works.
Cool.
And any working
And
radio is better than a broken radio for sure.
Exactly. It's just
this
whatever
is
is
true.
comfortable to you.
Are you guys? Wait, I think it's called pinch or thumb. I think that's the debate that our Twitch had last time. So do you pinch the little stick thingies, or do you ruin your thumb on the little stick
We're all
thingies?
pitchers, it looks
Like
like.
both,
Yeah,
I guess.
I'm a pitcher.
It's like the hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid.
Yeah, I sometimes
Yeah.
rest my thumb on top with like the index in front of it, but I'll,
Yeah.
it's still like a form of pinching, if you will. So yeah, I just say I'm a pincher.
I love how out of context this is a very strange conversation.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is the drone world, I guess. I've started becoming immersed in it that sometimes I use like FPV drone terms to like people around me who aren't necessarily in the whole thing, and just look at me like, what are you talking about? And I can't really justify it because I don't know that much about drones, or enough at least to be able to explain it to other people. But yeah, I'm learning thanks to all of you having the patience to explain and demonstrate. I think we have some footage as well from Rue's practice on Savvy, I believe it is, which was one of the GP tracks last race, so at Vaduz. And Rue, this was your... Which one was this, actually? Was it the first heat?
I believe it was the first of the women's heats, and I really liked that orange complex thing we just went through. I thought that was really interesting. We had this giant power loop. So I really liked the way the championship maps this past race flowed. I thought they flowed really very well. And I just really liked this map a lot. It had a lot of different elements. So we've got ladders, split S. It was a nice challenge, but also not so mind blowing that you would have trouble learning it on race morning during that limited practice that we get.
Do you remember what your best time on this track was?
I do not, but whatever it was slower than JBox and Andreas.
I mean, we don't know that.
Oh, we know that. But
Well,
it
to
was
be
really
fair, I
fun.
think
This map was fun. Yeah.
was Savvy was the one flown in the small final or the grand final?
I'm not sure. Sorry, go ahead.
It was grand final. So Andreas did, to be fair, win one of the heats on this map. So, but yeah, it's shout out to the dev team, the track designers who did a great job at this GP. It marvels me always how they just
tracks this race were unreal.
It's just like just putting stuff in the middle of a city just for the fun of it. It's so cool. And how did you come with, or come up with, or were given, or how did the FPV name Rue come about?
So that came about because kangaroos are my favorite animal, and probably it was a
I was
while ago
hoping.
now, but I visited Australia with my mom, and for months I was just talking about how I was going to get to meet kangaroos, and you can like feed them in zoos there, and it's just like really cool. So my friend told me that I love kangaroos so much, she was just going to call me Roo from now on, and it's just stuck ever since. So my little logo is a Roo, and it's fun because when I see kids at drone races, I give them my stickers, which are a kangaroo. So yeah, they're just cute. My favorite animal.
That's sweet. I do love kangaroos. So, I mean, not gonna lie, my first assumption when I saw your name was like, oh, is she Australian? And then my next assumption was she probably just really likes kangaroos, which legit,
and they're fierce
cool
too.
That they are fast. They are very fast. I've always been impressed. Andreas, I feel like we can skip this question, but is there a particular reason why you didn't want to come up with like an alternative FPV name and you just stuck with your name?
Not really. It's just the first ever race I did, someone was like, oh yeah, what's your nickname? And I was like, I don't know. And I just wrote down Andreas FPV because you had to write something. And ever since it just stuck because people knew me as such. So haven't been bothered to change it.
Would you, I mean, if you could / decided to change it, what would you want to be changed to?
No idea. It's like on Steam, so like in DCL the game, I change my name all the time to just whatever I feel like, and it's something
I
random
noticed
every
that.
day. Yeah. So like I'm not too attached to it, so it could change to literally anything.
I think my favorite was one where you were, it was it was a stab at Minjay's name, but I think it was like Andreas Kim or something like that. I don't remember
Yeah,
how you did it exactly.
I think I started a few things with like personal best, with a mini, and like just went on with just adding stupid stuff from other people's names to my own, and it's a mess.
This is creative. JBox, apart the fact that you're streaming from a box, I'm assuming that the name came before this.
Yeah. I believe I was like in first grade, and I got like an Xbox, and this was my first ever time like needing a username. So I was just like, you know what, like it's an Xbox, but now it's my Xbox, so it's a JBox, and I just have always gone by JBox for anything now. So yeah,
That's a cool story. Holy.
You,
yeah.
Yeah, that's adorable. I love FPV name stories. Some of them just come from the most random things, but it's really great that everyone has their own story, I guess. There was
there,
a...
I was gonna say there's a couple other really fun ones, at least among the American pilots I know. So of course, Propsicle DCL pilot. I feel like that's an incredible name. There's a pilot called Yawsome, which I have always loved that name. And one of my
Amazing.
friends is named Piefly because she can recite 500 digits of pi. So she's big into Pi
What?
Day. Yes. And she's done these videos of her reciting 300 digits of pi while flying a drone. So she just like blows my
What?
mind. She's
That
amazing.
YouTube video was insane. I remember watching that, just
Yes.
like,
Yeah, I
how did
saw
she
it.
do it?
Oh,
Like, that is insane.
That's
Yeah. So
way too
she's
many
definitely,
things to do at once.
yeah, she's another lady pilot to watch. I think she probably is going to beat me at International Open and the global qualifier this year. We'll see. We'll see. But I think she's gonna do it.
It's never over until it's over. I believe in you.
Well, yeah, it's just as you put more time in other things, you don't have as much time to practice. So if I'm doing more DCL, I'm not doing outdoor racing. If I'm making more
Yeah, that's fair.
content, like always something has to suffer. And I just know I have not practiced in real life this year nearly as much as I did last year heading into the International Open. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is a valid point. But does the practice in one kind of translate to the other, though? I mean, surely even if you're practicing just in the sim, it still does count as stick time that is helping you get better as a pilot and therefore will translate into in real life tournaments as well.
It definitely translates, but I found that if you don't also put time in real life, your real life flying is going to suffer a little bit. So,
Mhm.
yes and no. So, 1000% drone sims translate into real life skills. But I do think you also have to practice in real life if you want to perform at the highest level.
How often do you get to practice?
So normally I would practice a few packs pretty much any day it's not raining. But lately I've been
Mhm.
freestyling more. So I've been doing freestyling packs instead of my race practice packs. So coming up to the International Open, I'm probably going to put the freestyle on hold and do a lot more real life race practice. So we'll just set up a few gates, do a bunch of drills over and over, and try to get in a little bit of stick time any day it's not raining.
Fair enough. So how many battery packs do you bring with you for a practice session?
So on a weekend, we might fly 30, 40, 50 packs if we're lucky. On the weekday, I typically will try to do at least 6 packs, maybe a few more. But I've got to cook dinner, help the kids with the homework. It gets dark, so there's not as much time on a weekday. Sadly, sometimes at lunch break, I can squeeze in a few packs, which is really nice. But
Wow.
it's really the weekends where you just go back to back as much as you can.
So how long roughly does a pack last in airtime?
90 seconds to 2 minutes, maybe 2:15. I'm a little slower than these guys, so they'll probably all be 90 seconds or less.
Yeah, something like that.
And JBox?
For me, it's about 50 to 60 seconds, a minute.
Yeah.
Y'all are fast.
Thank you.
They're also quite tiny batteries, so like it's just a balance off.
But then you have to... Has it ever happened to you that you didn't necessarily... Because I saw in JBox's video there was a low battery warning, which really stressed me out, by the way. And does it ever happen that you kind of see the low battery warning, don't really listen to it, and that at some point all of the batteries in the drone just die and your drone just kind of like falls?
Yeah.
And, like, that's it.
Yeah. This past year at multi-GP champs, I was battling it out with like Propsicle for the first lap, and I was like, let's go. Like, I'm keeping up with Prop. And then on the second lap, my quad, I wasn't able to finish the race even though I was like top 2. And yeah, I ended up getting a DNF because I didn't have enough battery left for the drone to fly. So yeah, that happened. Lesson
That's
Oh my
learned.
unfortunate.
god.
In practice, if we see the battery go low, we'll come in and land. But in the race, you're gonna kill that battery before you'll come back and land. So if you run out of battery, so sad. But usually the batteries can make it in a 3-lap, sometimes a 3-lap race.
Has yours ever not made it, Ru?
I don't. Oh, Tiny Whoop, yes. I was at the. We did a really cool race at the National Air Force Museum, and it was a little bit of a longer track. And one of my whoops was noticeably heavier than the other whoop, and I was trying to make sure that it could make it. And I'm coming up on the finish gate. Coming up, it was going to be my PR run so far in qualifying. Battery died. Whoop just sank to the ground. Didn't
No.
get to finish my lap. So I knew then not to fly that whoop because it was just too heavy for 3 laps on that track.
Gosh, that's unfortunate. Andreas, has it ever happened to you mid-race?
I mean, yeah, like I have had occasions where I forgot to charge my battery properly, or I like grabbed the uncharged battery, and I only notice it like right before the start when I can't say anymore, like, hey, like give me a second. And I'm just like, oh god, I'm not gonna make it, and then like one lap in, it just stops. But not where it like was supposed to finish.
Unfortunate. Someone, not someone, Silent, the current reigning world champion at the Women's Cup, asked what my FPV name would be, and it would be something cat related. I feel like cat FPV is maybe a bit too obvious, but maybe like someone is Ice Cheetah. Cheetahs are my favorite animal though, but like maybe lion. No, lion doesn't work. Something feline related, but I feel like anyone who even remotely knows me would know that. It doesn't. It's I like cats.
I agree with Silent. You definitely need to pick your FPV name.
I think so too.
I mean, we are going to brainstorm on this, but in the meantime,
you can think about it, of course. Definitely think it because it's important.
I think
Right?
it's one of those things where it will stick with you for life, and unlike Andreas, I anticipate what happens in For Life. If there's a name that I choose, and I know it's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, I take the decision very, very seriously, and like way too seriously for my own good. It is one of my many flaws. Overthinking.
So you need a deadline. You need a race. So like Andreas, He had a race, had to come up with a name, right? I think you'll have to do a race and come up with a name.
I mean, do a race is a strong word. We were doing a practice to help the devs testing different game stuff. Every time I tell them, you guys shouldn't invite me, I'm not going to finish. And every time I do not finish the track. It's really basic stuff. Like, 'cause they're just testing, they're not testing, you know, technical track things. It's more about like the dev stuff. And yeah, I can't make it past the first ladder. I was very annoyed about this the other day. I finally made it past the first ladder. There was a second ladder, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Took another while. And then they restarted the whole thing. And I was like, I finally made it through the ladder. Now I have to do that again. This is cruel.
Extra
But one
practice.
day. In my defense, I am working with a keyboard, which is like, I can imagine that having a transmitter is probably
Makes it a
easier.
lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier with the
Because like I don't
transmitter.
even have like an Xbox or PS4 controller, because you know at least with a controller you have like a something. But here I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, it's and then like you press like a tiny bit on the keyboard and it goes like, whoosh, and you're like, no, I just wanted you to move slightly to the right, like not the other side of the track.
I would actually be
Back to
curious
tracks.
to see what pro pilots could do with just a keyboard. Like, could we do a ladder? I don't know.
I actually, so we were talking with Matt last time about like possible challenges that we can do for pilots on What the Quad. And I do like this general concept of a keyboard challenge and seeing, you know, fine, with your transmitter and your fancy things, you can be really fast, but can you be fast on a keyboard? Can you? Yeah.
I'll
I
start
know this.
practicing.
I had Jordi and Star over for a race last year, and when I came
Yeah.
upstairs in the morning, Jordi was already practicing, but he was flying with WASD and his arrows, and I was just like, "What are you doing? Like we have a race in like 3 hours. What are you doing?" He was just flying with his keyboard. So there are pilots that do it.
So I think we can already call it. Jordi wins this challenge.
Well, maybe he's not the only
Thankfully,
one.
guys, he's busy at the moment and can't make interviews, so
Ooh.
you won't have to compete against him. But yeah, anyway. It would be really great to watch Andreas's one of your fastest laps, because you did end up winning it in the grand final, your first heat. I think were you were the first pairing or the second pairing?
I believe the second pairing. I believe that's how.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the heat number 2 of the grand final of Vaduz on Savi, because this is going to make sense. There was a question in the Twitch chat about the orange gate thingy, and if it has a particular name. I don't know from a dev perspective if they called it something, but while we watch this awesome video at some point that will come on screen, it would be really cool if you guys could brainstorm names for the big orange thing. Gate. It's not really a gate.
We put Andreas, FPV, brilliant pilot out of the 2020 debut he made with a team that were with us in 2020 called Apex Racing.
Even Matt likes it.
Fantastic with him, made a lot of fans on chat with his
It was
GG
neat.
sign that he used to wave at us all as well. IQ 0 racing alongside him. And we've got JBox Racer and Sally 1 racing for X-Blades. Of course, X-Blades have grabbed a lot of points against all the other teams except for Raiden. I think Raiden were the only one who beat them earlier on today. Sally in the front over IQ. This is Andreas' view of his teammates, and JBox is behind him at the moment. Look how close they all are, rolling through the monster there.
The monster.
Single heat of today. We've got the big heats follow this with 3 laps there. Andreas and IQ in front of both of X-Blades now. That's what they need. IQ still there. 1/10 of a second over Andreas. Sally, 2, 3. Behind, and now a few more. He's gone backwards. Drobot's gone forwards. Andreas stays in the lead as we see here, rooting to the kicker. But let's look at Drobot's view as he tries to catch him. Drobot finding a lot of time from somewhere through Torvald 1 and 2, and he's getting ever closer to Andreas. But the slalom is surely not going to separate them. And in fact, Drobot found a 1/10 of a second between the start of the slalom and the finish gate, but he needed 2.
Wow,
And
that was
so,
intense.
Yeah.
well, thanks to that, Andreas. I mean, you were an important part in Raiden winning the first GP, so props to you. That was a really, really good race. But did anyone come up with name ideas for the orange thing? Holla
Yeah, so you mean
at
like
me
the
if you...
big move, right? With like the 4 gates.
Square,
Yeah.
probably that.
Yeah, what
I
did you
think we
call it,
would call it, yeah.
Andreas?
I think we would
What
call
did
it
you
a
call it?
Ganelis. We have two track designers in the Netherlands. One is called René and the other Nelis. And they both have like these very distinct moves to do with 4 gates. So if you combine them, we get a Ganelis, and we've been doing that move for like 5 years. I think we would call it that.
I love the slow-mo of that. I was
Yeah,
like,
that was,
sorry,
that was
Andreas.
pretty cool.
That was really, really funny.
I want the entire live stream like that.
It would be amazing. It's something. That is something. Yeah. JBox, did you refer to it as anything special when you guys were practicing on it, or was it just
No, we
big
just kind of were
orange
like,
ladder
oh,
thingy?
yeah, we kind of just called it like the orange thing or like the split S into the slalom into the corkscrew. Like, there was no like specific name we had for it. It was just a really tight part of the track for me, so I crashed on it a lot.
Eh.
Yeah.
Did you, by the end, did you manage to be able to tame the lion?
No, I wish I could say I could, but that was when there was like 15,000 people and like they all watched me like fly horribly. But on the second track, I flew a lot better. Yeah, the second track, that's where I shined. But this track, it was like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. my time. I was tired.
Ooh.
Poor thing.
I was
it
not
was
ready.
early.
To be fair, though, on the second track where you were kind of lucky in a way, is that it's called Flowing Through Vedets, was the one that you then got to fly in the small final. So it works to your advantage that you got to fly a track that you're better at in the final.
Quad Force 1 against China Dragons will kick off with Burkhan and Leviathan against Star 23467 and JBox. Way more than anybody else in China Dragons, the best of which has been Star 23467. So keep your eyes peeled. And let's do this now. Single heat, number 1 between Quad Force 1 and China Dragons. Burkhan and Leviathan, Star 23467 and JBox. The Americans right in between the China Dragons.
Remember that mega ladder, guys?
Earlier on when these teams
That was
met,
so much
a
fun.
slightly different arrangement of pilots.
Mega ladder.
We never quite saw these 4 all racing
Oh, that
together at the same
thingy.
time. We had SFPV instead of Burkhan.
This truck was so good.
During the festival
This is like the
That's it.
biggest ladder I've ever seen.
Half-second over Leviathan. Burkhan a little way behind. JBox had a bit of a struggle and is looking like they're probably going to keep out this race, although I tell you what, that gap between them and everybody else is collapsing. Unfortunately, if there was another lap, he might well have been able to catch the people in front of him, but that race is over with Leviathan getting the win over Star.
Some great racing. I mean, you were against some formidable opponents there. So, Quad Force 1, they have a team. Like, yeah.
Pretty good. They're really good.
Yeah. There's a reason they're consistently, on the podium. They've obviously been doing some excellent work at scouting talent, and You held your own against them, so props to you for that.
It's back.
I cannot take this seriously.
It's all good.
JBox, we have a question from someone you might know, Star, who
Yep. Yeah,
was
I think I know
asking.
of him.
Yeah, it's probably you guys probably around in the same circles. The team name you both have and colors are really, really similar, so I feel like you might know each other.
Yeah.
But he was asking, how did it feel to get your first win? So that was against SDT, and what was how did it feel to win? Essentially,
To be honest, it was a real really exciting experience to say the least, because it was like that entire day I'd kind of been on the struggle bus. Like I really wasn't like flying to the fullest that I really wanted to, or like the fastest I really wanted to. But when I got that win, I was like, finally, finally, I flew decent, and like I flew good, and yeah, it was really fun the entire day. It was just telling myself like, if you make a mistake, it's all right. Like it's your first DCL race, and there's gonna be many more, so just kind of keep that mindset up.
well, they're exactly like you say. They're gonna be many more, so it's good, and you guys got to win, and that's more than most people will ever get who are joint races. So there's a reason you're in the team you're in, and you guys go to the small finals. There was some speculation in the Twitch chat over Jess's FPV name. I'm just gonna quickly come to this. But someone said Tabby FPV, which is ironic, which I found funny because I have 3 cats who are coincidentally all tabbies. And so, yeah, tabby would be not far-fetched, but I prefer Tiger just because that's like my cat's name and it sounds cool because it's written tiger, but it's German, and so they say Tiger in Germany. And so, yeah, it would be Tiger FPV. I think that sounds
like
really
it.
cool. But to be
I
fair,
like
it
that.
makes me sound a lot cooler than I probably am. But we're just gonna
Get out of here.
keep with it anyway. Twitch chat, if you guys have any other questions or challenges or whatever, feel free. We're here. Spinex. If you the pilots are very happy to answer your questions. Obviously, we cannot stay here forever as much as we'd all love to. It turns out we do have lives. I know. Also,
Surprise.
when I found out the whole life
What?
concept, I was like, what? But
We don't just fly
it's
quads
there.
all day, every day.
We're not just in team jerseys 24/7.
That would
Which,
be
like, by
nice,
the
though.
way,
It'd be so
would
nice just
doing
to
what
wake
you
up and
love.
like all you do is fly quads all day, Be so nice.
What would you say your favorite thing, like if you could nail down one particular part of racing that you really, really love? I don't know, like the sound or something. I mean, I know it's not the sound, but
I like the
what
sound.
is it, that special thing that you kind of just makes you shiver a bit of happiness inside, if that makes sense?
I think for me it
Anyone
would
want to go?
probably be like, yeah, I think for me it's probably the adrenaline. Like at champs, there are times where like I get so nervous that like I can't even like screw my props on. Like my hands are just shaking that much. Or when you're like when you're in such a like a tight race and you're pushing to like the max that you possibly can go, and like the person that you're trying to beat is just like glued like an extra foot in front of you, that it's like, how is this happening? Like I'm pushing as hard as I can, and it's like I can't even gain ground or like really lose ground because we're just like glued a foot from each other. um
Mm.
it's just the competitiveness and the adrenaline for me. Those are my 2 favorite things.
Andreas?
For me, it's more like, for one, the people, like atmosphere at races and online events is amazing. And second, just the concept of like free flying through the air feel as natural as walking. Where like you look at a video and you're like, wow, this feels completely natural. And like just think that that's not for everyone, you know? That's something you've built up over the years, and that's really cool to me.
Yeah, Silent in the chat was saying the people.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, having done a few of these interviews, I very much agree with that. Root?
I would say that my favorite thing is when I can finish in the race higher than I qualified. So typically in a drone race, you might have 5 battery packs in which you're qualifying, and then that is where you are placed into the brackets for racing. And I love if I can improve my standing, which means I just flew more consistent in the actual racing than maybe some pilots who are like faster than I would be. So one of my favorite races, Webtopia last year, I think I qualified 15th or 16th in my division, but I ended up taking 3rd place. So that was probably one of the highlights for me. So if anytime I can race consistent, I'm really happy.
Yeah, consistency is key. And what would you say is your most interesting or memorable crash that you've ever had? So in real life racing, in this particular case, although if it's sim, feel free to cite that as well. But yeah, you've all been there. I've never actually piloted a drone.
I have a good one.
Go for it, Drew.
So I was in the finals of a race. So I don't remember if it was the very last heat or close to the last heat, but I had been having like quad issues all day and I couldn't kind of figure out what on earth was going on. So I'm in this really important heat that I need to be first or second to stay in the race, and one of my motors fell off. So the screw that held the bell to the stator
Oh my
had been
God.
missing, and I just didn't notice it. And literally
Oh,
the
no.
motor bell just fell off the drone. So lesson learned, I always check my screws now before really important heats.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you learned from it.
I learned from it. 100%.
So all crashes are good crashes if you learn, and it helps you get better, I guess. That sounds not fun. Andreas,
Well,
what
I was
would
like,
you
I
say
just
is
fell out of
the...
the air. I'm like,
Oh,
what
sorry.
happened? Like,
How long did it take you to figure out what exactly had happened?
I had no idea until the race was over and I went to get the quad and I picked it up and I'm like, this motor is missing the bell. I'm like, I
Did you
found it
find the
a few
bell?
feet away. Yeah, it was
Oh,
like a few
nice.
feet away, but it
Nice.
just totally came off the drone. So I'm liking the clip motors a little better than the screw motors, I think.
Wow.
That is... Yeah, I can get why that would be a memorable one. Andreas.
I think I have one in like 2018 or 16. It was my first ever Dutch championship where I made it into semifinals. And I had only one quad back then. And at the end of semifinals, I completely destroyed it. Like everything was broken. I had no spare parts anymore. And between the time of the end of semifinals and finals, we completely rebuilt my quad of like scrap people had laying around. And I ended up
Wow.
getting my first ever podium that race. 3rd place, but it was for me like the biggest thing ever. But we completely rebuilt my quad during like a 5-minute window.
That is insane. I mean, it goes back to showing though the people.
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
really great that you had an issue and everyone around you was like, hey, take this part, and you ended up getting podium. So props to you and the community for supporting you on that. JBox, what was your memorable crash?
So it's not really a race, but it was like early, like a year into me flying racing drones, and I was trying to tune my racing rig at home, and so I was like, man, like at full throttle, I have like these weird vibes, and I can't tune it out. So I'm like, I do like a full throttle pass, I do another one, and like going back this way, like it fail safe, and it just started like it went full throttle into the concrete ground, and the thing just went cartwheeling probably for about another 50 feet. And yeah, I
Oh,
didn't get to fly that drone for too long. That was like this maybe like 10th pack on that set of motors and like setup, and yeah, it was destroyed. Like, yeah, there was no parts I could recover. It was bad.
oh
It was
my.
real bad. I was so sad.
I can imagine. I mean, it's not just the money, but it's also work to build and maintain a
Yeah.
drone, and yeah, when you crash it, it's probably devastating. I feel for you. You do an admirable job of keep going after all these crashes.
They're surprisingly. I mean, drones are surprisingly durable for how often we crash them. Though, I mean, we break a lot of stuff, but um, often things are not broken too. So I know it just depends on the crash and how fast you were going and what you hit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with
That's
that.
fair. Have you ever had a crash that you completely recovered from? I don't know if that makes sense. Where you like
Oh yeah.
get
Yeah,
into something,
yeah.
but you're able to pretty much straight away get back up and continue your race.
Happens quite often because like what do you count as
Okay.
a crash? You clip something quite often where you get kind of spiraled away from your trajectory, but you recover nicely.
Fair enough.
For me personally, I like it when you crash and then you disarm, but then you realize you can rearm and like just save it. So like you just kind of save it with like rearming, then you just fly away like nothing happened.
What does like disarm and rearm mean?
Like arming the drone means like you're turning it on after like the motor starts spinning, and then disarming it, it's like back to being off. Um, yeah, that's the only way
Can
I
you
can
just
think of like wording it.
Yeah.
so it's just like
I mean,
rebooting it essentially.
yeah. So if you're gotten a crash and you're way out of control, that's when you turn it off. And then if
Mhm.
you realize, hey, like I could keep going, you can rearm it and your modals will start spinning again, and you can go on.
But how do you yeah. Just, but how do you like if you disarm, you turn it off, right? Surely it just falls to the ground.
It would start to fall to the
Yes,
ground.
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
But you can
but like that's
catch
what I'm
it
saying.
while it's falling and turn it back on
Yes.
and then
Mm-hmm.
that's a cool thing. I did not know that that was a thing. That is that's actually really, really cool. Right. Three of you, thank you so much for taking the time today. Are there any last words, people you want to thank? You're allowed to mention sponsors as well. Or, your mom. Moms are supportive too.
So I definitely want to thank Quad Force One for having me on the team and DCL for putting together the Women's Cup in the first place. It's been amazing. All the lady racers, I have so much respect for you. You guys are really killing it. I'm still going to try to beat you, but so much respect. And I will thank my sponsor, Tattoo. So really happy to be taking the best batteries to the International Open next month.
Awesome.
So
JBox.
I'd like to. Oh, sorry. I'd like to thank China Dragons. It's an amazing team to be on, and I'd like to also thank my sponsors. So I'll go down the list. At GemFan, I love the props. I love R-Line batteries, and I'm really happy to be representing them as well. Thumb Grip Bees and Radio Master. It's kind of the radio and setup I've been using to sim on, and it's an absolutely amazing radio. And then You know, I got Fox here as well. Love the electronics, and then T Motor for my ESCs. Just love that gear. And then my buddy Alex Vanover, he's a real good supporter of mine, and you know, I'm really thankful to have him.
Doing a great job at DLRL as well.
Oh yeah.
Andreas.
I want to thank the entire DCL team and everyone at Raiden Racing for keeping us through these COVID times and organizing fun races and letting me race in those races. So thanks everyone for making that happen and work.
We are more than happy to. Wait, am I supposed to be thanking people now? I want to thank my cats for being the reason that I'm doing this job, because I have to give them food. Because one of them knows how to hunt and she would survive. The other two, absolutely useless. They would not survive in the wild. So, anyway, thank you so much to all three of you for taking the time today. It is always an absolute pleasure to do these shows because I have such great guests like you. And I
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
For everyone watching, the next Drone Grand Prix is in Lac, Switzerland, the snowy mountains. And on the 21st of May, so that's Saturday in 1 week and a few days, from 10 a.m. UTC, Matt, at some point there'll be a video of him saying what time zone that is for you. So, watch that. Or Google, whichever. But thanks for watching. Play DCL the game, watch the Drone Grand Prix next week, and have a nice day, evening, night, whatever time it is. And watch this trailer before we go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.